Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Isabelle Amigues, your friendly rheumatologist. It's a pleasure to see you. Today, we're going to talk about fear and how it's holding back and what to do when you are afraid, specifically when you're afraid to start medication. Okay. So, because I see patients very often as a second, third, fourth opinion, uh, I have come to realize that a lot of patients are actually very afraid of starting a medication. So they have the proper diagnosis. Their doctors actually have offered a good treatment, but somehow we give them all of those side effects, and the patients are like, "Okay, no, I'm done," and they basically retract. And and yesterday I had a patient like this who was incredibly active and basically was super afraid of medications and but also just as afraid of her condition. And so it reminded me of a couple of patients, more than a couple actually, honestly, I've had for the years, and how we get patients. And I'm going to give you this example from several years ago, where patients came to me with typical rheumatoid arthritis, the joint pain that's inflammatory, that's associated with morning stiffness, that basically wakes her up in the morning, can't move the hands, has like several hours of morning stiffness and swelling. And that patient actually presented to me with deformities, and she was afraid of medication. And when she actually shared to me how it had started, she had seen a rheumatologist who basically told her, you have rheumatoid arthritis, you should be on methotrexate. Here are all of the side effects of methotrexate. Sent her with a prescription and basically said, like, come back in 3 months. And you stop here and you realize, okay, the truth is that it's not easy first to have a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, right? And so there was no explanation of what rheumatoid arthritis was, which I think is particularly difficult. And then instead of explaining what she was about to live with, right? Instead of explaining the actual incredible research that has happened, like in the last several years, instead of sharing all the hope and the fact that we aim for full remission in rheumatoid arthritis, the doctors have no time. And what they do is that they just basically say, hey, take this medication. Here are all the side effects that you need to know, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, wait, hold on. Like, if it were me, if I didn't have the medical knowledge that I have, I would be freaked out also. And I would probably not take that medication as well, right? And so, what I wanted to do today is share how I approach patients when they have a new diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis or any sort of diagnosis in rheumatology, and how this fear can become the superpower, actually, so that then you decide properly what you want to do with your medication. Okay. So the first thing is to explain, what do you have? All right. So in this case, the patient has rheumatoid arthritis. If it's gout, if it's spondyloarthritis, it doesn't matter what it is. If it is a rheumatologic condition that is inflammatory, we can get you to remission. Okay. And so that the first thing when someone is in fear is to basically say, okay, look, here is what's going on, but here is where we're going. And where we're going is remission. And here is how we're going there. Okay. So that puts everyone in this position of, okay, now I'm understanding what's happening to me, which is super important for someone who's not in the medical field, right? Someone that's super active, that suddenly cannot close their hands, they have no clue what is happening. And so we need to explain, this is inflammation. Your body is mistakenly thinking that they need to create inflammation to heal. The problem is, by wanting to heal, they're causing harm. Okay. Then you need to explain, okay, look, the good news is that we have amazing treatments that can get you to full remission, right? And I think when we explain a medication, we actually first have to explain the good, right? Um, Look, water is super important. If you don't have water, you can die. Okay? So if you don't drink water, you can die. But if I start explaining to you, sorry, water, actually tea, but whatever. So if I explain to you how water can potentially cause harm, will you actually, like, you're going to look at the water and you're going to be like, water, not sure I want this, right? So here's the thing. Let me explain to you. If you drink too much water, you can cause swelling of your brain and you can actually die. Or you can cause so many electrolytes abnormality that your heart can stop, right? I mean, yeah, that's true. If I take too much water, this is something that can happen. But the truth is that water also helps you live, and water is going to make you have more energy and so on and so on. So, right, like it's how you approach things and how you educate people that's going to change everything, right? And so, in the case of rheumatoid arthritis, gout, pseudo gout, all of those inflammatory arthritis, what you've got to explain is, look, here is rheumatoid arthritis. Right now, you have a ton of pain, you have a ton of swelling. The good news is we can treat you. The good news is that the treatment can get you to full remission. Okay, and then you go and you say, okay, well, here are the side effects of rheumatoid arthritis if we don't treat it. Okay, because you can think, okay, well, if I don't take this medication, what happens to me? Well, what happens to you is that possibly you don't go into full remission. If you don't go into full remission, here are the side effects of rheumatoid arthritis. Okay. And then the other thing is, if you take the medications, those are the side effects that we're looking for, so that if you were to have a side effect, we can treat it. So that's super important, right? So it's really this balance of, yes, absolutely, everything you do in life has potential side effects. But we know, and the goal of, especially my rheumatology practice, the goal of the rheumatology practice is to empower you so you understand what you're doing, you understand where you're going. Okay. All right. Uh, I just want to, this is funny. I guess it's when we become a little bit more knowledge, like more known, there start becoming like people who come on the internet and start wondering who I am. So I am Dr. Isabelle Amigues. I'm a double board certified rheumatologist. I've done rheumatology, and so rheumatology is a specific subspecialty of internal medicine. Okay, so I actually have 17 years of training, and I'm an MD. I'm a master. I have a master of science. I also have multiple other certification. So I have 17 years of training, and the really thing that I love is that I love rheumatology so much. I continue to learn. So for someone who tells me that water doesn't make your brain swell, you're not understanding what I'm saying. What I am saying is that if you're drinking so much water, and it's called hyponatremia, it leads to hyponatremia. Hyponatremia is actually deadly if it's so severe. We see that, and we learn this in medical school, okay? So what I was explaining is, if you drink so much water that it's leading to complication, that can also have complications, okay? But water that seems completely innocuous and completely no problem, that can actually be a problem. Let me tell you, Swifty 1322 love, okay? I'm not spreading false information. I'm a medical doctor. What I am trying to explain is the gray zone here, which is, if you're just looking and you start looking at all of the side effects of everything, you have to understand what you're doing, okay? So when you're saying, oh, stop spreading false information, I'm not saying to stop drinking. I just told you, drinking water is great. You need that. You can't function without water. But what I'm saying is that water, if you take too much, also has side effects, okay? So that's what I'm saying. Okay. And so what I'm talking about here is the fear of medication, that it is absolutely interesting to have fear. It's important that you understand what you're doing when you're taking a medication. But don't let fear guide you, because the problem with fear is that it's not going to let you make the right decision. And again, the goal is that you understand, what does rheumatoid arthritis does, right? What does gut does? what does spondyloarthritis does? Those inflammatory arthritis, they don't just cause pain and swelling. They also can actually cause inflammation of your heart, inflammation in the lungs, inflammation of the skin, and fatigue, right? And so you're not living your life. Like you're just not living your life. And so what I'm saying is look at the balance of the benefit and risk. If you don't have rheumatoid arthritis, or if let's say your rheumatoid arthritis is so well controlled, right, that you don't have any more joint pain, right, then am I going to give you a biologic? Absolutely not. No, we're not, because we assess the benefit and the risk of every single situation, right? And what I'm just saying here is that sometimes when we go to a doctor, is that they don't realize, because they don't have time, and for them it's so obvious that they don't take the time necessarily to explain to you what the inflammatory condition is and what the goal of the medication is. And yes, there are side effects, but the vast majority of side effects don't happen. That's the beauty, right? So we need to tell you why, because otherwise you're not going to do the labs. Otherwise, you're not going to stop the biologic if you have an infection when we need you to. Otherwise, you're just going to do whatever and not continuing to see your doctor. The thing is that we need to follow you, right? Everything you're putting through your mouth can heal you or hurt you. And we need to work with you to get you to full remission. That's the goal. Okay. So thank you so much for all of the questions. Thank you for being live with me. It's a pleasure as always. As I was saying, I'm a double board certified internal medicine and rheumatology. I have also finished my rheumatology residency fellowship back in France. So I'm a rheumatologist from both countries, the US and France. And if you don't believe 17 years of training, then I really cannot really help you. My goal is to educate you, because I think that empowerment is the most important thing in medicine. If you understand what is happening to you, and if you understand the treatment plan that you have, you are much more likely to go to remission and to never give up until you are in remission. So don't give up. We're here. We want you to be in remission. And we have a group coaching that's doing exactly that, that's helping you heal. We're using all the parasympathetic system in an evidence medicine approach that's guided by me as your double board certified rheumatologist and internal medicine doctor that has more than 17 years of training and more than, actually, honestly, it's getting long, 30 years of practice. So anyway, thank you so very much, everyone, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.